Hi, this is Patrick. It is November 12th, 2013, and I'm here with my buddy Felipe. He's on the other side of the camera, and I'm explaining to him my experience in the sensory deprivation chamber that I just checked out in Austin, Texas at a place called Zen Blend. And it was a really cool experience. It was different than I expected, though. The main thing that was different than I expected was that I thought that my mind would be racing. I thought that I'd be thinking about things that, I thought that I wouldn't be able to quit thinking about things. But basically what it is it's hard to describe it in any other way than, well, it's just basically an enclosure. It's like the size of maybe a small bed, but it sits right on the floor, and it's got 10 inches of water in it. It's an enclosure, completely enclosed, and the water is set to a temperature of 93.5 degrees, I believe, which is your skin temperature on the outside of your skin. It's not your internal body temperature, but it's the outside of your skin. So it doesn't take long before you can't feel your body. And if you're moving around, if you're shifting and twitching, you're going to feel your body. You feel your muscles move. But once you get to the point where you're completely relaxed and you just don't move, you'll get to where you feel disconnected from your body. And I would go in and out of that state pretty regularly. The sensory deprivation is basically knocking out all of your senses. It knocks out you have earplugs in. Your ears are also under the water, so you have that added level of muffling. You're inside of a tank that is somewhat soundproof. I wouldn't say soundproof, but it's sound dampening. And then you're inside of a room with the door closed. So that knocks out every bit of your hearing, pretty much. They also have speakers under the water, which is neat because at the beginning you have your choice. You can have music playing at the beginning. You can have it to where it plays all the way through your experience. You can have it to where it starts with music and then drops the music out, and then at the end the music comes on, and that's how I had them set it up. I wanted to hear some music at the beginning, like these little Chinese kind of those kind of things. So I had that at the beginning, and then the sound drops out. Well, first you're listening to the music and you kind of have your focus on that. Well, once the sound drops out, my mind started going different areas. First of all, I started thinking, okay, I'm going to be here for an hour and 45 minutes. So I started thinking about boredom. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be bored. But what I was mostly surprised with, like I said, is that my mind wasn't racing. I didn't have thought after thought after thought that, I got to do this at 3 o'clock, and I got to get out of here, and when I get out of here, I'm going to do this. It can be different for different people. From what I hear, the guy at the end of the experience I talked to him about it, he kind of was surprised that I quieted my thoughts that quickly. Sometimes he said people will do what they call pinging. It's basically where you're floating, but you hit the side of the tank, and then you push yourself off and you hit the other side and you're constantly going back and forth pinging. What I realized quickly in the tank was that if I pushed myself off, I noticed that I would hit the other side. So what I did is I let myself touch the side of the tank, but then without even pushing, just the little bit of force that I touched it with made me bounce a little bit. So it didn't take but maybe 2 or 3 contacts with the side of the tank until I was just suspended right in the middle and not even touching any side. So you hear nothing after the music drops out except you're breathing. You see nothing because it's pitch black. You can have your eyes open and you see nothing. It's pitch black. You don't feel anything because your body is the temperature of the water, and you don't feel any pressure because you're floating in the water. And you can smell at first, but as you know, most people know that you could be in a room with Clorox and smell it for about 10 minutes and then you don't smell anything. So of all the senses, you don't taste anything. You're not tasting any salt water or anything. So there's no senses. You're not tasting, smelling, hearing, anything. So, and not seeing anything, it's pitch black. So after what I experienced, like I said, myself, is first I have thoughts, then I start drifting off, and then I'm not thinking about anything, and then I hit the side of the tank, and I notice that. But an hour and 45 minutes in there really felt like about 20 minutes, because I heard the music come on, and I'm like, what's going on? They turned the music on too early. I'm thinking that it can't have had an hour and 45 minutes pass already. So, but that wasn't my first thought. My first thought was, okay, I'm conscious, I'm aware, but I'm only conscious of consciousness itself. And I don't know if it's a puzzling thing to hear. I was not conscious of my body. I couldn't feel it. But I also wasn't conscious of being numb. I was only conscious of consciousness itself. And until you actually do this, you might not even understand what I'm saying there. But I was only conscious of the fact that I had consciousness, and I didn't have any thoughts that I was grabbing a hold of. I wasn't thinking of my body. I wasn't thinking of where I was. I wasn't thinking of getting out of the tank. I wasn't thinking of anything. It was just zero thought, except for the awareness of the fact that I was consciousness in its purest form. And that's basically the all I can explain as to what I experienced. So then I get out of the tank after, first, once I was aware of my consciousness, I was not aware of my body, but I was aware of my consciousness. And then I became aware that, okay, I need to get out of the tank. So I started moving, then you feel your body, and then I started stretching and just stretching my arms, stretching my back, and just like when you wake up from being asleep and you stretch. But it was an interesting feeling to stretch while you're suspended in just a feeling of weightlessness. And so I began searching for the sides of the tank. Where's the side? Where am I going to, touch to make sure I'm not bumping my head on something? And so then I do my stretching, and then I start slowly getting out of the tank. I get out of the tank, and first thing I do is check my phone. I want to see what time it is. There's no way that an hour and 45 minutes could have passed. I didn't really feel like I fell asleep. I didn't think I fell asleep. Anytime I've fallen asleep on my back, I've always snored. I've always woken myself up with snoring. A couple other things I forgot to say when I was in the tank is that, you know how you're starting to drift and you feel your body jerk. And I did that one time. I felt my body jerk. After that, I didn't feel my body jerk, but I felt a couple of times I felt the water moving. So I was thinking, did I jerk, or is the house settling? Like, did the house move? I don't know what happened. I could just feel the water move. So that was maybe happened 2 times. Another thing I noticed was that every once in a while I saw light. I was going, how did I see light? There's no light in this place. There's not, so it must have been some sort of a hallucination that I saw light, and that was weird. My eyes were closed. I just saw like a little light, and then it went away. So I don't know what that was all about. So I get out of the tank, and you rinse off, and I go downstairs and see the guy who runs the place, and told him about my experience. He was surprised that I got away from thought so quickly, that I didn't lay there and have difficulty getting away from thought completely. But he was also surprised that I didn't bounce off the walls more. But it was just, I was able to relax myself pretty quickly, and that's a pretty neat experience there. The other thing I noticed is that driving home, I'm pretty aware driving home, but when I got to the office, I went and sat in the room in the office, and I was very quickly, just by closing my eyes, able to get myself back to that state of complete relaxation and the absence of thought. And I could do it right now if I close my eyes. most likely I'm going to be aware of the camera and thinking that people are going to think I look weird while my eyes closed and sitting here. But so I probably might not be able to get to it that easily. But turning the camera off, being in the room by myself and closing my eyes, I would quickly get to that state of the absence of thought, but the awareness of conscious, which is basically the best I can describe it. And the feeling of relaxation that I have right now is like none that I've ever had. I've never been able to meditate and get to that state in the way that I got to that state through this sensory deprivation chamber. So it was cool, and I recommend that you try it out. It's a very unique experience and something that if you're able to let go, you will really, really appreciate the experience. A caveat to that, maybe caveat's not the right word, but something to tell you that maybe you have to understand before making this a lifestyle, is that the guy told me that I asked him how many times he's done it. He said, when I first got the tank, I was doing it a couple of hours a day sometimes. And he said what he noticed is that he just got so relaxed that he had the total absence of stress, and that actually, he saw that as a detriment, because he said, you just didn't care about anything. The house could burn down, I don't care. That's kind of the state he got to, is such a state of relaxation that nothing bothered him. And he said, so it had to kind of put that in check and say, okay, this is not something you can do every day, unless you want to be like in the state that the Buddhist monks are in, where they're just like in complete state of Zen all the time, and without a concern that if somebody dropped a bomb next to them, they might, okay, So that's the thing to be aware of, is that if you do get into this, just be aware that a certain amount of stress in your life is good to get yourself moving, and to have yourself be concerned about things that are worthy of concern. But that's it. That's my rundown of the experience, and it was very cool, and I'm definitely going to do it again.